I was thinking about different stories I wanted to share, and I was thinking about the Lager family, and I'll definitely have more stories on them. But one of the things that I remembered was their little guy. I'll call him Jack. Um, the dad had a what you call side by side. I think the brand name was Mule. So we would always take the mule out almost every day, even in the winter when it was cold, except unless it was like brutal, brutal cold. And we would ride it through the woods, and their property sat up next to a state park. And so there were trails in there, 4-wheel trails in there, and we would ride in there almost every day. Well, that was one of the things we did every day. Anyway, we were deep in there, and there was this path that went off to the left. So we went on it, and it kind of went and circled around a tree, and then that was it. Well, I noticed on the tree there was this box, and it had a little thing, and I thought, oh, that must be a camera. Thinking, since we're on state property, it's probably like the game or forest people, and they're just tracking movement or whatever, for hunting, illegal hunting or whatever. So we had a lot of fun with that camera, and I'm a little bit of a rebel, so I'm giving it the finger, and um, I did that thing where you walk lower, lower, lower in front of it, all this stuff. Anyway, the dad talked to me a couple weeks later, and apparently this was one of his friends' trail cam, and he was tracking this one deer, and we were kind of putting our scent all over the place. I mean, I'm sure they got a big laugh out of how goofy we were being. But aside from that, we were, messing with his deer hunt. And so we, quit doing that. Well, I told the dad, I said, if you get a deer, because he was quite a hunter. He was actually on the cover of a hunting magazine. So he's a good deer hunter. A lot of trophies in the basement. That's where they ended up. Anyway, so I said, if you get a deer, let me know, because we'll take the meat, because he just wanted the head. And so uh, he said, yeah. And he says, if my friends get one, whatever. Well, then he called me, I guess, a Sunday of hunting season. He says, hey, my friend got one. It's that one you guys were messing with, that trail cam. And if you want it, you can have it. He's just going to take the head off of it. So we went over and we got the deer. And I asked another friend, could he help me process it? Now, I watched some YouTube videos on how to do it. And I was pretty ready to go. And I told him, I said, now I want you to show me some things, because when you're kind of dressing it out, there's a poop thing you don't want to nick, because if you do, it fouls up all the meat. So that's what I was kind of worried about. I wasn't worried about skinning it or anything else, but I was worried about accidentally cutting into that poop thing, tube or whatever it is. And so he came over, and I said, nah, I don't want you to do it. I just want you to show me. And so he did. He came over and he showed me. He cut that where the poop tube was, so it wasn't going to be a problem. And he helped me skin it, because you have to be pretty strong to skin it. But anyway, so I was able to dress it out, or not dress it out, but cut up the meat and process it, which I've done before. And so I want to tell you about those times. Um, the first time was, I was kind of dating this guy, and one of our friends hit a deer. And so she's like, oh, I hit a deer. So he went out and got the deer and strung it up in the tree. And, he was bringing in chunks of it. And my job was to wash it, wrap it up, and we put it in the fridge. And then the next day we'd process the meat, which he wanted a lot of it to be turned into hamburger. So that's what we did. And I quickly got over my problem with it. And in fact, I really don't think I did have a problem with it. Anyway, so years later, I hit a deer. It was so sad. When you've got oncoming traffic, like in a 2-lane, it is so hard to see the deer. And I didn't even see him. And I bam right into him. He was a big buck. He's like an 8-point buck. Big guy. Maybe 10. I don't know. He was huge. And I knocked him down and I hurt him, but I didn't kill him. So I ended up calling the cops, and it was not county property, it was city. So city cops come out, and they got traffic backed up both directions. because this cop's gonna, put it down. And I said, you put this down, I want the meat. So that was secure. It was my deer. And so this cop, I don't know if he was young or dumb or what, but he's standing point blank and he shoots the deer in the head and blows off one of his horns. And I'm like, what an idiot. I mean, come on. My grandma could have made that shot. So it took him 3 times to put it down, which was horrible. And finally he got it down. And so I had called my boyfriend. He was an old boyfriend at that point. And I said, we got this deer, come help me. So he came with his truck. We loaded up in the truck and he had it strung up at the tree. And here we are doing what we did before. And yeah, it just went really well and we got it and all this. At one point, he came in with like a leg or something and he's like, the dogs are fighting over the head in the yard. I'm like, what? And so I went out there and of course the other friends are sitting around hanging out, And I go out there in the yard and there's my dog and his dog and each one's got an ear and they're tugging the ears and they're, playing tug of war and wanting this deer head. And I go up and I grab it out of their hands. I'm like, leave it alone. And I grab the deer head. I'm walking through the house and I got this deer and I'm like, I got it, And his friends are like, and one of his friends, like you could just see the blood drain from his face. It was so funny. I put it out on the back porch so the dogs couldn't get into it. I didn't think about like the impression make on this guy or anybody. I was more about, getting the deer out of his, away from the dogs. So we ended up dressing that up and, or whatever you call it, processing the meat. And I had meat to last me all winter, other than other meat, So, I mean, it's good meat. I've learned more and more about cooking it. I've learned a friend's dad was like, you always put a potato on it, when you've got a roast. And so that's what I did. And you just stick a potato on it. You can cut it in half, stick it on top of the roast or the meat, and you just roast it like a beef roast. And the potato sucks all the gaminess out of it, and then you just throw the potato away. So this meat is really good. Actually, we won a chili contest using venison. So, I mean, it's really, if you get one, it's quite an asset to your food stores. So anyway, but, then I got this one off one of my dad's friends, or, one of the guys I work for is a nanny's friends. And like I said, I watched a YouTube video and Shaw, the guy, I mean, you need to know how to do anything, watch YouTube. This guy showed how to cut it and, where the best meat is and everything. And so I've got on the table and I've got everything all set up and I got one of these ceramic knives, which was amazing. And it was so interesting to feel the different textures of the muscles. The leg muscles are a little bit, tougher. The back quarters, the hind end, is a nice, sturdy piece of meat. But I learned that along the ribs and the back, they call them back straps, are the best cooking and the best tasting. And so it was really a nice opportunity to learn how to to cut up the deer and the different density of the muscle and how the muscles run and all that. So it was really awesome. It was a good experience. And I always want to know like survival kind of information and preparedness stuff. And so this was a really good opportunity for me. I definitely could not kill a deer. I know that. I always wondered if I could. And working for this guy, whose friend got the deer, they had this prop, their house, and it had this kind of, she called it a portico, but, the top of it was covered by the second floor, but it was like an inset. And they had couches there. They had a, wet bar and stuff. Well, this mother bird, got trapped in there, which was something that kind of happened. And she was trapped in there, but she somehow flown at the wall and almost broke her neck. She was almost dead. And she had a little bird, a baby bird with her. And was trying to get this bird. And I used this big pool skimmer. and I grabbed the skimmer and I was able to trap her and catch her. Or no, she was on the ground, so I was able to just go and pick her up. It was a little one that was flying around. And so I picked her up. I went in the kitchen, I got a knife, and I needed to just dispose of her, to so the baby bird would go away. And she's almost dead anyway. She was just waiting to die. And so I took the mama bird around the front of the house because I didn't want the kids to see it. And I've got her laid down there, and I got the butcher knife there, and I'm, trying to jazz myself up to kill it. And I'm just like, I'm having such a problem with it. And those movies where you're in a suspenseful scene and the music just gets more tense and it goes up and everything. That's what was going on in my head. It just went up, 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 up. And I had to do this. I had to do it. It was just ethical at this point. And so it went up, up, up. And then all of a sudden, whack, I chopped at it. And I think I was so nervous and so stressed out by this, I broke the knife and the head just came right off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was traumatic. That was hard. And I don't know how people could twist their heads off. Or twist their heads. I could never do that. And then I learned, okay, I could never hunt. I could never kill. And, but I got processing down. And so that's pretty cool. Where we live, we got deer in our yard, deer, the property right next to us. They're out there all the time. They ate my tomatoes last summer. So they're always here, but it was a neat opportunity to process them and know that I could do this. I've done it 3 times, but to do it on my own, because Scott always did the rough cuts and, all that thing with the poop channel and all that, and skinning them and cutting their heads off, so that's a little more brutal than I've done, but I've definitely processed the meat and then, taken the meat off the deer. So that was pretty cool. I just thought I'd share it. I don't know why anybody would want to watch this. I'm actually stunned that people are watching my videos. It's kind of cool, but I'm really confused. But if you've hung with me this long, thanks. Bye.